business was I grew up in Los Angeles, and I was studying business in college and never done a school play or anything. But
In 19 You know that feeling when you see someone who's been part of your life for decades, even though you've never actually met them? That's Tom Selleck for millions of people around the world. The tall guy with a thick mustache who made Hawaiian shirts look cool. The detective who drove that red Ferrari. The dad who gave the best advice on that family show. But lately, something's been happening with Tom Selleck that has everyone talking, and honestly, it's got a lot of people worried. Before we get into what's going on now, let me take you back to where it all started, because Tom Selleck's story is one of those classic Hollywood tales that almost didn't happen. Tom was born in Detroit, Michigan, back in 1945, right after World War II ended. His family wasn't rich or famous. His dad was just a regular working guy. And when Tom was young, the whole family packed up and moved to California, looking for a better life like so many families did back then. They settled in the San Fernando Valley, and Tom grew up like any other American kid, playing sports and going to school. Now here's the thing about Tom that most people don't know. He wasn't trying to be an actor at first. Not even close. This guy was a serious athlete. He went to the University of Southern California on a basketball scholarship. Can you imagine? The Tom Selleck we know today was running up and down basketball courts, dreaming about professional sports. But life is a funny way of changing our plans. While he was in college, one of his teachers noticed something about him. It wasn't just that he was tall and good-looking. There was something else, something that made people want to watch him. This teacher convinced Tom to try acting, and even though he wasn't sure about it, he gave it a shot. That one decision changed everything. But Hollywood didn't just open its doors and roll out the red carpet for Tom Selleck. Not even close. For years, he struggled. He went to audition after audition, getting rejected over and over again. He did commercials for things like Pepsi and toothpaste just to pay his bills. He took tiny roles in TV shows where he'd show up for one episode and then disappear. There were probably times when he wondered if that teacher who pushed him into acting had made a mistake. Then came 1980, and everything changed. The show was called Magnum P.I., and it made Tom Selleck a superstar practically overnight. He played Thomas Magnum, a private detective living in Hawaii, solving crimes and looking cool while doing it. That mustache, those Hawaiian shirts, that Ferrari he drove around, it all became iconic. People couldn't get enough of him. The show ran for 8 years, and Tom won an Emmy Award for his performance. Suddenly, the guy who couldn't catch a break was one of the biggest stars on television. After Magnum P.I. ended, Tom could have just coasted on his fame, but he didn't work that way. He kept taking on different roles, showing people he could do more than just play a cool detective. He made movies, some big action films, and some smaller dramas. He showed up in Friends as Monica's boyfriend, and a whole new generation fell in love with him. Then in 2010, he landed another huge TV role as Frank Reagan in Blue Bloods, playing the police commissioner of New York City and the head of a family full of cops. That show has been running for over a decade, making Tom Selleck a fixture on television for people who grew up with him and for their kids and grandkids too. But now, here we are in 2024 and 2025, and things have taken a turn that nobody really wanted to see. The first big news that shocked everyone was the announcement about Blue Bloods. After 14 incredible seasons, CBS decided to cancel the show. Now, you might think, well, 14 seasons is a good run, right? And you'd be correct. But here's what made it heartbreaking. Blue Bloods wasn't some struggling show that nobody watched anymore. It was still incredibly popular. Millions of people tuned in every week to watch the Reagan family gather around that dinner table and talk about their cases, their lives, and their values. The ratings were still strong. The fans were still there. So why did CBS pull the plug? That's the question everyone's been asking, and Tom Selleck himself has been pretty open about his feelings. He didn't want the show to end. Not at all. In interviews, you can hear the emotion in his voice when he talks about it. This wasn't just a job for him. For over 10 years, he worked with the same cast, told stories about family and duty and honor, and connected with fans who saw their own values reflected in the show. Tom has said publicly that he thinks the network made a mistake. He believes the show still had life in it, still had stories to tell, and still had an audience that loved it. And is not wrong. When the final season started airing, the ratings proved that people still cared deeply about the Reagans. But in the business of television, ratings aren't always the only thing that matters. There are contracts and money and decisions made in boardrooms that don't always make sense to the people who actually make the shows. For Tom, this cancellation meant saying goodbye to something that had become a huge part of his life. At almost 80 years old, he'd found a role that fit him perfectly. Frank Reagan was dignified, moral, strong, and thoughtful, kind of like how people see Tom Selleck himself. Losing that must have felt like losing a piece of himself. But the end of Blue Bloods isn't the only thing Tom's been dealing with. There's been something else, something more personal and harder to talk about, and that's his health. Tom Selleck is getting older. That's just a fact of life. He turned 79 in 2024, and while he's always been this strong, tough guy on screen, age catches up with everyone eventually. Over the past few years, people who've seen him in public or watched him on Blue Bloods have noticed some changes. He moves a little slower. He seems a little more tired. There have been reports about him dealing with chronic pain, particularly in his back, which apparently comes from all those years of doing his own stunts and action scenes. When you're young and making action shows and movies, you think you're invincible. You do the jumps, the fights, the running, and you don't think about what it might cost you 30 or 40 years down the road. But the body remembers everything, and now Tom is paying the price of being tough and doing his own stunts back in the day. There have also been some concerning reports about his overall health. Nothing specific or official, but the kind of whispers that make fans worry. He's looked thinner in some recent appearances. There have been rumors about struggles with arthritis, which would make sense given his age and his history of physical work. Some people close to the production of Blue Blood have mentioned that filming became more challenging for him as the years went on, that he needed more breaks and couldn't do the long hours as easily as he used to. Now, Tom himself hasn't come out and made any big announcements about serious illness or anything like that. He's always been a pretty private person when it comes to his personal life. He's not the type to go on social media and share every detail of what he's going through. But his silence on some of these health questions has actually made people more worried, not less. There's also been talk about his financial situation, which might surprise you. Tom Selleck has been a major star for over 40 years. You'd think he'd be set for life, right? Well, it turns out that even big stars can have money troubles. Tom owns a ranch in California, a beautiful place that he loves. But California isn't cheap, and maintaining a property like that costs a lot of money. There were even reports a few years back about him being involved in a legal dispute over water rights for his ranch, which show that even someone as successful as Tom Selleck has to deal with practical, real-world problems. With Blue Bloods ending, Tom lost a steady paycheck that had been coming in for over a decade. At almost 80 years old, it's not like he can just easily jump into another major role. The offers aren't going to flood in the way they did when he was 40 or 50. So there's been genuine concern about whether Tom's financial future is as secure as it should be for someone who's given so much to the entertainment industry. And then there's the emotional side of all of this. Tom Selleck has always been about more than just being a celebrity. He's been married to his wife Jilly since 1987, and by Hollywood standards, that's like 100 years. They built a life together away from the spotlight as much as possible. They raised their daughter on that ranch, trying to give her a normal life despite having a famous dad. Tom has always valued his privacy and his family time. But now, as he's facing the end of Blue Bloods, dealing with health issues, and getting older, you have to wonder what's going through his mind. Is he thinking about retirement? Is he worried about his legacy? Is he frustrated that after all these years of hard work, things are ending in a way that feels out of his control? In interviews about the end of Blue Bloods, you can hear something in Tom's voice that sounds like disappointment mixed with resignation. He's a professional, so he's not going to trash the network or make a big scene, but you can tell that this isn't how he wanted things to go. He wanted to keep playing Frank Reagan. He wanted to keep telling those stories. He wanted to keep showing up to work with a cast and crew that had become like family to him. The fans have been incredible through all of this. When the news broke about Blue Bloods ending, social media exploded with people expressing their anger and sadness. There were petitions to save the show that got hundreds of thousands of signatures. People shared their favorite moment from the series, talked about what the show meant to them, and thanked Tom Selleck for years of entertainment, and for playing a character who represented the kind of values they believed in. That outpouring of love and support has to mean something to Tom. When you spent your whole career trying to connect with audiences, knowing that you succeeded, that people really care about you and the work you've done, that must provide some comfort during a difficult time. Looking at Tom Selleck's situation brings up bigger questions about how we treat our aging stars and what happens when the industry moves on from people who've given it so much. Tom Selleck isn't just some actor. He's been a part of American culture for over 4 decades. He's entertained multiple generations. He's been someone people trusted and respected. And now, as he's getting older and facing challenges, it feels like the industry is kind of shrugging and saying, "Thanks for everything, but we're done now." That doesn't feel right to a lot of people. And honestly, it doesn't feel right to me either. So what happens next for Tom Selleck? That's the question everyone's asking. The final episodes of Blue Blood have aired, bringing an end to the Reagan family saga. Tom has done some interviews talking about the show's ending and what it meant to him. But what's next? Some people think he'll retire completely, step away from acting and just enjoy his ranch and his family. After all the years of work, after all the early mornings and late nights, after all the memorizing lines and hitting marks and doing take after take, maybe he's earned the right to just be done. Maybe he wants to wake up in the morning without a call time, spend his days however he wants, and not have to worry about ratings or reviews or any of it. But there's another part of this story. Tom Selleck is an actor, and actors love to act. It's not just a job for them. It's who they are. Could Tom really just walk away and never perform again? Some people think he might look for smaller projects, maybe independent films or limited series, things that wouldn't require the grueling schedule of a weekly TV show but would let him keep doing what he loves. There's also been some talk about him possibly doing more behind-the-scenes work, maybe producing or mentoring younger actors. He's got decades of experience and knowledge that could be valuable to people just starting out in the business. That could be a way for him to stay connected to the industry without the physical demands of acting. Whatever he decides, one thing is certain. Tom Selleck has earned his place in entertainment history. From those early days of struggling and doing commercials to Magnum PI to Blue Bloods, he's created characters that people remember and love. He's been part of moments that families shared together, watching him on their TV screens week after week. The situation with Tom Selleck reminds us that our heroes are human. They get older. They face challenges. They deal with disappointment and health problems just like everyone else. The tall, strong guy with a mustache who seemed so invincible on screen is now almost 80 years old, dealing with the same things that happen to all of us as we age. But it also reminds us of something beautiful. The way fans have rallied around Tom, the love and appreciation people have shown him, the sadness about Blue Blood's ending, all of that proves that what he did mattered. He didn't just show up and say lines. He connected with people. He became part of their lives. And that's something that doesn't end just because a TV show gets canceled or because someone gets older. As we watch this chapter of Tom Selleck's life unfold, we can hope that he finds peace and happiness, whatever form that takes. We can hope that his health improves or at least stabilizes. We can hope that he knows how much is meant to people over all these years. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get to see him on our screens again someday, even if just one more time. Tom Selleck's story isn't over yet. It's just changing, the way all our stories change as we move through life. And whatever comes next for him, he'll always be Magnum. He'll always be Frank Reagan. And he'll always be that guy with a mustache who made us smile and made us believe in heroes who were strong but also kind, tough but also thoughtful. That's the real legacy of Tom Selleck, and nothing can take that away.